home Alabama, where skies are blue. Sweet home Alabama.
Hi everyone, guys, got the GFX, Fujifilm's medium format camera. Very excited to test it out today. We are at Kalk Bay Harbour here in Cape Town. Very beautiful spot. We may be a bit late, sun's getting up a bit high, but we're going to get around today and get some portraits done using a one flash setup. Hopefully we can find some people who are willing to help us and assist us with this, and then ultimately do maybe a print, at least one of the photographs, to see really what these prints look like, because I think that's where the benefit of a camera like this comes in. I've been very fortunate to be able to get my hands on it. Unfortunately, it's the only one in South Africa, and everyone's been trying to get their hands on it at Fujifilm and all the other X-photographers. So I have very little information on this camera, to be totally honest, because I haven't gone and done a lot of research, or I haven't watched other reviews on the camera. So really this first impression that I'm going to give you is literally a first impression. I've been waiting for this camera for some time now. It's really been an exciting sort of prospect, and I love the way that Fujifilm had jumped from APS-C to medium format, skipping over 35mm or full frame. I just think that the difference between those two is really, you know, I'd rather have a clear distinction between two formats, and by doing this is, I think, a really clever move by Fujifilm to make two separate, totally separate in a way, formats where there's a huge difference between the two. You know, when you get the camera, though, obviously the first thing you want to do is have a look at that sensor. It's incredible. I mean, such a small body. We're so fortunate living in this day and age that we have such small cameras with such large sensors. And really, this is what I've been waiting for. This is when I saw the X Pro 1 initially come out, and earlier Fuji models, my mind went straight to medium format, because I knew ultimately this is where this sort of format, this type of camera would lead us to: smaller size, bigger sensors, better quality. And it's finally arrived, and I'm very, very excited about it. Quality wise, you're looking at the same quality that you get on any of the Fuji cameras. Really well made. The lenses are sturdy. I can see in some parts of the lenses they've obviously tried to keep the weight down, but overall you still have the same sort of sturdy construction, a lot of metal components combined with plastic components. But overall it's exactly as what you'd expect from like your latest model of the APS-C sensor, the XT2. It follows in line with that exact same thing. The lenses themselves, at the moment they've only got 3 lenses. I don't unfortunately have the wide zoom, but I do have the 63, which is kind of a standard lens, and your 120 lens, great for portraiture. I did a brief little shoot last night. I got my hands on the camera. I did a couple of shots of my daughters just against the wall in the house. Very impressed. I did some cropping in Lightroom. Actually, funny though, those ones are just JPEGs, which I'll show you now. But I haven't yet had a look at the RAWs and gone through them properly, which I imagine are going to be spectacular, because even with the JPEGs, just cropping in on the image, the detail is just phenomenal. And I think where you're going to see the real benefit of a camera like this is in your printing. So if any of you guys are into prints, printing your photographs, enlargements and things like that, I'm sure they're going to be breathtaking to view. Incredible experience, because if any of you have stood in front of a medium format or large format print, it is quite an amazing thing to view. The way the camera is laid out, a lot of people have obviously said it's a bit like the XT2. So I think the way I read into that comment is that if you come from a Fuji X line of cameras, you will know how to use this pretty much off the bat. The menu setup is almost identical to the XT2. Button layout works the same, except for the exposure compensation, which is no longer there. So overall, the usability of the camera is going to be pretty much the same. So that transition will be very easy. But what I will tell you is that the actual feel and hold of the camera is different. I wouldn't even say necessarily DSLR-like, even though it's probably closer to that than it is the XT2. It's kind of unique. It has its own kind of feel. I haven't used the big grip that comes with it yet, but even like this is it's comfortable. It feels substantial, feeling like you're holding a serious piece of equipment. And the one thing I did notice, even though I haven't really shot with it a lot, just the brief times I used it yesterday with my daughters, is that I slowed down in my photography again. So when I was using 35mm full frame DSLRs. When I transitioned to Fuji, and initially I didn't transition totally, I went for the X Pro one and I used it as like my sort of own camera, my personal work, while I still use my DSLRs for my, what I get paid for. That changed the way I shot. That X Pro one slowed me down totally, made me think about my photographs, made me engage more in what I was doing. Slowly but surely, as we've got through to the X-T2 and they've refined the X-T2, it's shooting a little bit more like a DSLR, and your speed of your shooting increases. So that experience of slowing down totally is not totally gone with the X-T2, but it's been partially retarded, if I can use that word, isn't it? I'm slipping back into my habits of overshooting maybe slightly where I shouldn't be. But with this camera, it's gone again. Now, whether getting used to it's going to change that, but it's taken me back down into that sort of slow, take every shot, look at it, hold the camera steady in your hand. There's a lot more movement on that mechanism going back and forth, or up and down, should I say, on the shutter. You've got to be more aware of camera movement. Everything is exaggerated with high resolution, medium format images. So yeah, your concentration levels have to be up and things like that. So it's a totally different shooting experience, and that should be a big consideration when you look at this camera. It's not like shooting an X-T2. It's totally different. And this is a fairly wide shot. I'm using the 63mm lens. This is a scene from the harbour, and the detail in this thing is just incredible. Right, just got the shot of the seal here, lying here, sleeping in front of the boats. I deliberately shot this at 2.8, as shallow as I possibly could, just to give you an idea of the fall off and the out of focus area with the 63mm lens. I'm about 1 meter to 1.5 meters away. I've pulled focus in on the nose of the seal, a little bit shallower than I would normally shoot the shot if I wanted to get it, but hopefully this gives you an idea of what the sort of out of focus areas look like. The actual two lenses I got to use, unfortunately I didn't get to use the wide lens, the wide zoom. I got to use these two lenses. The 120 is, from what I've seen on the back of the camera, is amazing for portraiture. Quality looks amazing. It's an f4 lens, but at this focal length you get decent out of focus areas, fairly shallow depth of field, and then obviously the 63 lens is a 2.8 lens. I'm very confident they're going to come out with amazing lenses throughout the lineup, just like they've done with the smaller sensor bodies. They've been very committed to their platforms and provided us with a good variety of lenses, and I see this as no different. The one thing that I do miss on these bodies is the exposure compensation dial, which you find on the X-T2. That's something that I enjoy using, and they've replaced it in the space in the top of the body with the screen. During my shoot today, I never really use the screen, so I'm not saying that it shouldn't be here. I just haven't figured out myself where I'd be using it. All the information I use is in my EVF and on top of the dials. So I haven't quite figured this out, but that's not to say that there isn't a good function, because there's a good reason why I'm sure they put this here. I just haven't myself figured that out. But I would have maybe preferred an exposure compensation dial. However, by engaging any of your function buttons, you can engage that, and that isn't an issue. The sensor itself is actually on the small side of medium format. It's the smaller. I don't like using the word crop, because a crop is a very deliberate term used for sensors that are smaller than what the lens projects light backwards. So like a 7D, for example, Canon 7D, that I call a crop sensor purely because the lenses you put on it are 35mm body lenses, and the light that goes over it goes way beyond what the sensor needs. These are purpose-built systems. There's no cropping involved. It's full to use that word. I don't know if that's the correct word to use, but they're purposely built around the sensor, these lenses. So you're getting optimum quality, and I think the sensor size, which I think they put in the Hasselblad as well, is a good choice because it keeps that body size down. It's pretty much the same decisions I imagine they made with the APS-C and the X-T2. They've now made with a larger format. They've operated with the smaller end of it, and it makes perfect sense. Just zooming in on the back of the camera, and the screen is touchscreen, which is amazing. If you actually do find focus accurately, like on an eye or a part of the face that you want to focus on, zooming in, the detail is incredible. So I'm sure the pixel peepers out there are going to be blown away by the quality of this camera. The dials on the top are pretty much the same, guys. You've got your ISO dial, you've got your shutter speed dial, you've got full auto on both, and they've incorporated the C function. All right. Now the C function is also found on the aperture ring, your aperture swings from 2.8 on the 63 all the way to 32, and then you have to actually engage the locking mechanism to take it to A, and then engage the locking mechanism again to take it to C. Now, as you know, the C function brings in the front and back dial, and it allows you to change the aperture using the body as opposed to using the aperture ring, which is pretty cool if you're a DSLR shooter and you're used to shooting that way. So what you would do is you would engage the ISO onto C, you would engage the aperture ring onto C, and you would stick the shutter speed onto T, and what you would then have is full control front and back of aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. Shutter speed would be tapping the one dial, and then it would be doing the opposite. So you're using two dials to control those three things. Hopefully that makes sense. I wasn't given an example, or I haven't been given the longer eyepiece, you know, for shooting downwards on the camera, but it engages pretty easily. It just comes off like that, and then you'd obviously put on the device, and then I believe it sits like this. So another device goes in, this clicks into that device, and then you've got a longer reaching viewfinder. Unfortunately, I haven't seen it yet, so I can't comment on that yet. But very easy to take off and on. No major issue there. The LCD is. I don't see any issue with the LCD. It's a touchscreen, which is the first one of its kind, I believe, in Fuji's range. It seems to work very well. You can flick through images, you can zoom in images, you can tap to zoom out, zoom in, things like that. The function buttons are pretty much similar to what you'd find on the XT2. You've got numerous function buttons, and you can function those as you do on the XT2 and X Pro 2 to anything you want that's found in the function menu. Okay, on the side of the camera, you've got a full array of all your connections that you would need. All right, here's your battery. The battery is I would say this battery is maybe just around the same size of a Canon 5D Mark III battery, maybe a little bit taller, but that's kind of the size that you're looking at. The shoot today I used one battery. There wasn't an issue. I think you could probably get a good 500 shots with that battery. Shouldn't be an issue. Memory card slots, there's two, just like you'd get on the XT2. There's two card slots there, and I presume it runs, I haven't actually had a look at that, but I presume it runs the exact same way. You have the option of shooting raw JPEG or raw one card JPEG, another card. You've got an option of shooting continuous, where when the one card runs out, the other one takes over. You've got the option of shooting one card backing up the exact same image to the other card. So I'm sure all the same features are available on this camera. The screen itself is negatively lit, meaning it's a black screen, and the image that's projected on the screen is white. So it's the opposite of a white screen with the black writing. But when you put the lights on the actual body, by turning it on, you engage the light, it does the reverse. It shows you a white area with black writing. And all the information that you choose to project on the screen is customly set in the body, so you can choose what information you want there. Alright, so what a great day we've had with the GFX, and I'm just looking at the images that I got, and I'm blown away by the image quality. They're the high res images, the sort of the feel that medium format gives you. It's quite special. It's quite a different shooting experience to the XT2. Even though the layout of the camera is almost the same, it's, you know, the way the dials are set up, where the menu functions. If you came from one of those cameras, you'll have no trouble using this. Just the nature of the size of it, and this is the small end of the medium format sort of segment. This is as small as it really gets, which is incredible. But obviously, you still got to get used to the fact that the lenses are quite a bit more substantial in size. And just changing lenses, you know, you've got to put the body against your leg, big unscrew, big turn of the lens, drop these things. And these things, I took for granted with that XT2, how quickly you can just change it. I mean, I can hold two lenses in one hand, and I've actually learned to hold the body and change two lenses with just these two hands. So it definitely is a totally different experience. The whole, shooting, the sound of the shutter, the movement of the shutter, the vibration from the shutter through your hands, being a bit more aware of being, holding the image steady, things like that. Was very interesting. What I love about this is that they've implemented different shutters. Obviously, it has electronic shutter, which we've come to know from Fuji works very well. You do suffer from rolling shutter, but when you're shooting static stuff, it works very well. And obviously, you don't have the vibration from the shutter mechanism. But obviously, it still has the mechanic, which works with the flash. But it also has implemented, I think it's called front curtain sync, where literally half of the shutter engages and the other half is already taken up. So it's kind of a combination between electronic shutter and mechanical shutter. and it just allows, there's more variation in what you can do. I believe that only works up to about 1,000th of a second or 640th of a second, somewhere around there, and then it immediately kicks out of that mode. But these little things they've really thought about, and these are the concerns I had before the camera was released, because I came from a medium format background in the film days, and you either had to lock up your mirror, or if you had a camera you couldn't lock up your mirror, you had to literally dig in, hold down, make sure the camera was steady before you took that shot. So every shot is a very deliberate process. It feels in a way a bit more like an art form, where you're thinking hard and long about each shot. And yeah, I think it's actually a good thing, not a bad thing. But certainly not going to be running around doing the kind of stuff you would do with your X-T2 or a DSLR. It's a different kind of process, different kind of shooting experience. Just put up a couple of photos on Lightroom. Now this was Robert, which we met and we photographed down at Kalk Bay Harbour. He's been on the water for 30 years. He's a fisherman. He's actually a skipper of one of the boats. Very willing to help us. And what a face, man! What a photographic face. I just want to show you, that's the full shot. That's the full width of the shot. Too raw. And I don't know if you can see that on video now, but I will put that up. That is insane. I mean, I can literally count the pores on his face. It's just, yeah, it's incredible to know that. I mean, not that I do crop that much. You could safely crop in on his head and still print that in a magazine, even on a large print, like a 10 by 15 inch, even larger. You could just do literally on his face, and no one would know that you've cropped in that much. It really is incredible. He has a color photograph of Robert again. I've just taken, his skin was quite red, so I just took out a bit of the red of his skin, pretty much out of camera JPEG. This is a close-up that I did with him with the 120 lens. The one before was with the 63, and I'm going to go right in on his eye now. Let's wait for it to clear. And I don't know if you can see that, but that's just nuts. That detail is just, it's insane. I'm going to give you sort of the specs on that image, so you kind of get an idea. That's at 100 ISO. That is, let me have a look. I shot it at f9. Now that's actually surprising, because I wasn't really looking to gain much from a depth of field point of view. Because this is not the largest of the medium format sensors. When you look at full frame or you look at APS-C, it is a jump up in size, but I didn't expect to, the point of using this camera wasn't to get this incredibly shallow depth of field. And if you do the mathematics on it, it's not going to give you huge numbers. But, this is at f9. I set him against a background which is quite a distance away from him. And that's beautiful fall off. I mean, I'm not quite sure where in the photo the fall off actually occurs, but that is incredible. That's with the 120 lens. That is so creamy, so beautiful, and the detail in him just makes him, besides the fact that I've lit him with a flash as well, the whole thing is he's just totally separated. And there's this beautiful sort of area of smoke coming up that's kind of partly in focus, partly not. And unfortunately the screen doesn't give you that sort of effect, but I can't get that on another camera besides a medium format type camera. So they've certainly fulfilled that need. Yeah, very impressed. Next one I did was a black and white of the same thing again, so there's no point in showing you that one. And this was Paul, who played us a couple of great tunes at the end there. This one's a wider shot, step back. I was maybe about 10 meters to 12 meters, 15 meters, or I don't know what that is in yards. Those of you guys who work in yards, maybe about 20 yards away or 18 yards away, and I used the 120. And that's the full shot, that's the full frame shot. Turned it into black and white, and this is the kind of detail we have. That is insane. That is nuts. The detail, I mean, obviously the wall's fallen in focus as well. I pulled it on his face here. I didn't get accurately on his eye because, it's a wider shot. But everything there is just so sharp. So sharp. That's insane. Very impressive. And I could quite confidently put any of these photographs on a billboard. That's what sort of clarity with these, these Fuji makes great lenses. They've always done that. So yeah, thumbs up from me. I'm very impressed, Fuji. Just getting used to the actual use of the camera is obviously going to be my, that's where I'm most interested to see how it works on a daily basis. Where could I implement this in my work routine? Is it only going to play a small part, or is it because it's quite a portable camera? Does it actually take care of a lot of my work needs. So these are the kind of things I still need to figure out, which I'm sure a lot of you are trying to figure out as well. Yeah, so thanks again for following me and watching this video. I apologize for the long wait between videos. I'm a working photographer and there are seasons where I'm just non-stop. So hopefully I can get some more videos off soon. And yeah, just subscribe, and if videos do come up, you'll be the first to get them. All right, thanks so much. Take care. God bless.
Sing a song about the man. There's a country for you. Tell me, Jimmy. Oh my God. Well, guys.